Darling Dorks podcast. My name's Amy. Today I'm joined by Selena.
That's Selena.
Coco.
What up?
And Carmen.
What's up, nerds?
Let's get started. Our topic today is led by none other than Carmen.
Why, hello.
All right, Carmen, tell us what we're doing today.
Things for half an hour.
Yes. So today we are going to talk about the only thing that I am nerdy, like quote unquote nerdy thing that I am particularly intense about, which is Avatar. The Last Airbender. I love that song.
I was just about to say, I didn't know you were into, Blue Man Group
people.
in the wild.
Yeah. Ain't that
So last time I hosted one, we talked about Avatar, and there's just literally so much to talk about. We just talked about it because it's an amazing series, amazing characters. Nothing about it is bad. So today I thought we would...
The movie's bad.
Nothing about Avatar, The Last
We don't talk
Airbender,
about the movie.
the anime, and excluding anything that the writers had no part of. Avatar live action, don't watch it. It's terrible. You will regret every second of your life. You cannot get those seconds back, people. Do not waste them on this movie.
If you'd like us to do a recording of us watching this
No,
movie,
I refuse.
just
do wanna
comment
do
on
that.
our
Carmen will
Instagram,
boycott.
send us emails, comment on our Facebook.
Force us to do that.
There
because
will be no
just-
root. I'll just...
If you buy us a copy of the movie and send it in, we will watch it and we will film it and you will get credits.
It will just be Carmen sobbing through the whole thing. So I
We'll
recommend
take a
against
shot
it.
every time they say "ong."
Oh my god.
yeah, I know.
Life. Yeah, it needed to be a drinking game to
Yeah, like
endure.
make it drink to forget.
Oh
you know?
gosh.
All right, Carmen, what are we talking about in the Avatar verse today?
Well, the Avatar verse. Thank you, Amy. So today, I figured the best thing to do to like really break the cusp of what Avatar is to each of us would be to just hyper focus on one character each time I do this. So today, I thought we would focus on what is debatably one of the most superficial yet complex characters, which is my man Sokka. So today, we are going to talk about him. He is debatably one of the most interesting characters because he stands out in that universe in that he is the only non-bender in the core group, and yet he aids in saving the world. So, one of the things that I like about Sokka is though he starts out being more like comedy relief, all of the other main characters end up relying really heavily on him like later in the series, and I feel that because he is kind of an outcast, he doesn't really fit in, he doesn't have special abilities. I feel like a lot of us kind of feel that way sometimes. So he is maybe one of the most relatable characters.
He's the Ron Weasley of Avatar.
Oh,
Except
bringing
even
it
Ron-
back to Harry Potter.
Even Ron had magic. Sokka has nothing.
Hey, he's
like
got a boomerang.
Everyone had magic. That's like
Boomerang, you
not special.
do
I
come
guess,
back.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
do go.
He's got Sokka's instincts. He's got a lot.
Isn't he supposed to be like the strategy guy?
Oh, he is so many things, Amy. Yes, he is. He is the rock. He is the planner. He is the strategy man. He does not start out as any of these things, though. So I thought, I feel like it's a pretty bold statement, like the things I've just said, that he's the most interesting and he's the most relatable character. So I thought it'd be kind of fun for you guys to think about a character of like really anything that you really relate to and to like kind of say why you relate to that character.
Just an Avatar or like
No, anything. And just kind of what elements of the character do you feel are relatable?
That's a whopper.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I feel like because Sokka, he's in this incredible crew where they all have such amazing, and as the show progresses, it's basically like watching your friends get a PhD while you're still in high school, and I feel like that kind of resonates with a lot of people. So I feel like he's kind of relatable in that way, and yet in the end, he ends up being crucial to the team, which I think is true for anybody. Sorry, Amy, you have something to say.
Is it? I was just thinking, is it bad that I want to say Appa because I'm the fat reliable one?
Oh God.
Always willing to
The
hear
fat,
myself.
reliable
Yeah.
one. Iconic.
Yeah.
Also, flying. That's like my dream. So I'll go with that.
I mean, if it
Amazing.
makes it easier for you guys, just even in Avatar. if
Yeah,
that's
let's
easier.
go with Avatar. Maybe
Or
break
you're
it
No,
down.
mine is not Avatar.
Yeah, okay.
If
that's
you had to
fine.
pick someone in Avatar,
No,
though.
no. If
We
you-
already discussed this. I'm Bulin.
Okay, no, that's not Avatar. First of all.
that doesn't
Second of
fall
all,
in Carmen's.
My
But,
original
like,
question was,
I'm
what
bullying.
makes a character relatable to you?
relatable. Like, to
Like-
me specifically, relatable to me.
Like, what character
Coco.
do you kind of relate to as you as a person? Yes, as Coco, and kind of why?
Okay.
It's like an essay topic.
I
but I'm
would,
sorry.
the answer, like, I would like to say, like, I would like to think that I relate to Luna Lovegood, but
I was totally gonna say
realistically, I think I'm more of a Hermione, like, because even though I'm not as, like, wickedly smart as she is, like, I always loved school, and when it was, like, stuff I cared about, I really loved learning. Like, when I went back to school this summer and, like, did women and gender studies, I was like, this is my jam, I'm not even trying, and I, like, have an A, and it's like, it's just my jam.
Actually, follow-up question, do you think that when you relate to a character, like, is that your favorite character, kind of because you relate to them, or is it more like...
Hermione's up there for me, but she's not my favorite
Yeah.
character. My favorite character is Luna.
Yeah.
But, like, she loves learning, and she is, like, passionate about, like, social justice, and she gets very, like, heated and emotional, and she's just a boss-ass bitch. She doesn't take no shit from anyone. And, like, I feel like that's me. Like, literally last night, I was at the bar with my pole friends, and there were, like, guys who came up and were being gross, because since it was the after party for our show,
No,
like,
you can just say guys because men are gross.
because men are
End it
gross.
there. It's the truth.
But we had a pole there because it was the after party for our show. So we brought in a pole and we're like just doing tricks and stuff. And there were like some people that gathered around to watch, which is fine. Like, you know, it's kind of like weird and cool. Like, it doesn't bother me. But this guy like came up and just like at the time that he walked up, no one happened to be on the pole. And he like did this motion with his hands of like, come on, like, I'm waiting for a show here. Like, like, someone get up there kind of thing. And like, I wasn't even beside him. I saw him from across the pole and I just like stormed up to him. I was like, you know what? No, I don't like your attitude. Like, and just like, just read him for filth and then physically turned his body around and told him to leave. And it was like, bye, see you never. Like,
But you know what? I feel like
which is so Hermione. Like, she literally punched Draco in the face.
I was
like,
even gonna say, like, Luna Lovegood, like, she had all these weird things that people, like, made fun of her for and had expectations for her, and she was just like, nope.
yeah.
Just straight up nope.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I was gonna say, most characters that are my favorite are, like, really confident, badass women, but I am not that kind of person, I don't feel like. So, it's very much... They are who I aspire to be.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
That's usually who it is. It's not someone I actually like, hey, you're like me. It's like, no, like, I wish I could be that, but I'm actually back here.
Yeah.
But that's cool, too, because some people like characters because they relate to them, and some people like characters because they are, like, beyond them, which I think is kind of cool. Which I feel, I don't know.
So for me, what really drives characters are their flaws. So just the way that their weaknesses and fears and insecurities are reflected, and how they grow through those things, or how they don't grow through those things. In terms of what I relate to, that's usually where I would find myself relating to characters, is like
in their
if we have this in their flaws.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
with me, right? Because like, I don't know.
You said earlier that the flaws are reflected in the strengths.
Yeah. But I do really believe that, like, for example, Sokka, because he has the flaw of being, like, insecure for a lot of it because of his bending, you kind of have to go through his strength of, like, really realizing his own self-value. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, that's exactly
valuing himself.
Almost his arc, right?
Yeah. Like, and trying to find ways to be contributing to the group in ways that only he can, right? So, for me, when I kind of think about who I am, it's easy to think about the good things about me, but all the bad things about me really stand out, I feel. So I relate to the bad things in other characters. Like Azula, and Azula's fall has to be one of the greatest antagonist downfalls I've ever seen, because I kind of like
Well, you feel
pity
bad for
Azula.
her. Yeah.
But
Because you see her having, like, a break with herself in reality at the end,
But you know
right?
how, like, it is not until the very end that you feel anything for her, which I think she's such an interesting... I cannot wait to do her because she's, like, so interesting that way.
Yeah.
But it's nice that you say that Sokka has to battle with his inadequacies compared to the rest of the team, because I feel like at the beginning and most of the end, like, the first thing that the viewer notices is that Sokka is different. He is inferior. He can't do anything. I don't think he sees himself that way until, like, literally till season 3 when they're in the Fire Nation, and then, you know, that whole episode where he meets his master and things, because he finally, like, comes to terms with the fact that he can't do everything that they can do. But up until that point, he is just in it to kick Fire Nation butt, and he is fully accepting of, like, it does, like, he doesn't even notice it, and I think that's kind of incredible.
My thing is, though, just with Sokka's whole backstory of, like, his dad being, like, in charge of, like, the water bending efforts in the war and stuff, do you think up until that point it was him just being confident and being like, I can do this? Or do you think it was just him trying to be like, I have to do this for my dad, I have to be like my dad?
I think that when he was in his tribe, definitely he felt like his dad left him in charge. He had to live up to what his dad wanted him to be, which was a protector of the tribe. But I feel like during the first part of their journey together, it was almost like, you know how when little kids are together and everyone is kind of different and some people aren't as able as other, but little kids don't notice it almost until adults kind of point it out. I feel that's kind of how Sokka was in the beginning, where he had his boomerang and he kind of thought that he was the master planner and all the things that he ended up being before he was. And
yes, exactly.
He did have a lot of flaws, like in the very beginning. At the very first episode, he was talking down to Katara about how, you know, women are supposed to, like, do the cooking and cleaning. There's a whole thing with him, like, her sewing his pants and things. But then he ended up being the one that was noticed by, like, the White Lotus. So he always had these strengths, like, in him, and he didn't really... He had to go through the adversity. He did, yeah. He had to recognize his weaknesses and then overcome them. And I think that was a really great arc for his story.
Do you think he was supposed to be like the heteronormative male, like, role? Like, that's what he fulfilled? Because I wouldn't say that Aang is like the traditional, like,
no,
you know,
masculine.
kind of,
No.
He's very much
not.
the opposite, right? So do you think that they, in some aspects, they almost made Sokka, like, at least try to be, like, hyper masculine to make up for that?
I think that
Toxic
it was interesting. It made, like,
not necessarily even toxic, just, like, blowing it out of proportion so Aang would look more childlike in reflection, right?
Well, I think they did it well because he was in charge of his entire... He was the only man left in his whole village, and he felt he had to live up to his dad. So in a way, yes, he had a lot on his shoulders, and he had to show the boys how to be men when he himself didn't know how to be a man and what that meant, because his dad wasn't there to, like, show him and to give him those values. And yet he had that childhood still in him because all he was surrounded with was kids, and then, like, his younger sister was probably the oldest one there other than the old ladies. So he had what was I gonna say? Oh shoot, I lost my train of thought. Damn it.
So do you think that Sokka goes through the most growth as a character, or do you think that there's other characters that show more growth than him in the series?
Well, okay, because I was gonna say, he starts out being kind of the more childish one, trying to mask being an adult, but he actually does, I feel, have the most relationships, the most serious and the most complex relationships. Like, the first one was with like Princess Yue, and he had like genuine feelings for her, and he was the first one, I guess, other than, I suppose, Aang, because he lost all of his people, but, like, in their journey, he was the first one to experience true loss like that, because he lost Yue, and that was, like, a really big, like, grown-up, I feel, moment for him that he had to
At the same time, you do have to keep in mind, though, Katara and Sokka took their mom's death really hard. Like, that's a huge plot point for Katara throughout the series.
Oh, that is, yeah. For sure.
But I mean, get, like, what you mean. Sokka's, like, the romantic, like, just the representation of different romantic relationships, because he's the only one who really has any. Yeah. And they all go such different directions.
Yeah. Which I really like, because Katara has, like, a little fling with, like, Jet and
Ugh,
whatnot.
I hate Jet. He's my least favorite character. I hate Jet.
And then there was that bonding moment with Zuko, but as for like true romance, Sokka is the only one that really experiences that until the very end of the series, which is funny because he is the one that is the most, debatably immature. As I guess, because Aang is like 12, so it's a different level, Sokka is a teenager, but he's just so immature, and like at times he's so dumb.
See, and I wanted to be like, is it like the whole Harry and Hermione thing? The J.K. Rowling's come out and said that they should have been together.
Oh, fuck you, J.K. Rowling.
Should it have been Katara and Zuko?
No.
Honestly, everything J.K. Rowling has said about the Harry Potter series after it's been released, I'm like, shut up.
Yeah.
Fair.
Shut
Fair.
up.
Okay, but to be fair, like, Katara and Zuko, not on board with, but I mean, even Zuko and May, I'm like, the show still kind of could have had, like, May is not essential to the story, honestly.
Oh, God, no.
Like,
no,
it's kind of cool,
all.
Zuko finds happiness in the end, blah, 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 but, like, no, that whole romance was completely unnecessary.
I think they did it so there wouldn't be a triangle with the three... So they were like, let's give Zuko another love interest. Mm-hmm. Get him out of the picture.
Yeah, like, I mean, Katara, I think, is the only one other than May, and, I mean, I guess his uncle that lets her get close to him. But, yeah, I don't think... Are they the best couple? We can get into that when we get into, like, Zuko and May's episode.
I think, though, like, talking about characters that undergo a lot of personal growth, I think Zuko does undergo a lot of personal growth because he kind of really flips he really goes through like an abused person's mentality, and he kind of goes through this whole journey to realize that he's like, doesn't need to be abused anymore.
I feel like feel like he's like his growth is more he was brainwashed into viewing things one way his whole life, and then he went, oh wait, that's not reality. Whereas I feel like Sokka actually like kind of shows a realistic depiction of like growing up and like all of the shit you might have to go through, like relationships, you're dealing with your sibling, dealing with your parents, like all of these crazy things,
inner turmoil, like I said, and
like, also cactus juice, because that'll really fuck you up.
I was actually gonna get to that. How Zuko is the character almost, I feel like how I play. We talked about it earlier in D&D, how he is kind of he is rash and he reacts. So when he drinks the cactus juice and then he overcomes it and then he licks the slime off the wall. And there are other
You totally said Zuko instead of Sokka.
Rest in peace.
But we're all back on the same page. Cactus juice equals Sokka. We're good.
Yeah, so Sokka drinks the cactus juice, he overcomes it, and then he licks the slime off the wall, and half the time he doesn't know what's going on, but he does his best, and...
Do you think that's supposed to be representative of teens trying drugs?
I very much probably.
Because that's totally... He's like, I'm gonna put this thing... Yeah, I'm gonna put this thing in my body and see what happens. And it's like, no, you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, of all the team members, he's the most likely to do... But that's the same thing. Like, he tries new things. He's got the most creative mind, I feel, of the group. And that is his strength. That's what he brings to the table. And at the end, everyone does. He is the planner. Everyone is just like, Sokka, what's the plan? And they unquestionably, like, look to him as the leader, which is interesting when you have, like, the greatest earthbender in the world and this waterbending master, the only airbender left. And yet there's this... like a debatably useless character who now knows how to do everything from drive, Fire Nation ships to planning invasions. And I think that's pretty... When the Order of the White Lotus, again, like I said earlier, he was accepted pretty readily by the Swords Master. And in the end, you find out the Order of the White Lotus is full of these amazing masters, the Paku, the Water Master, and then Iroh, the Firebending Master. And now Sokka was welcomed into this group when... seems like the great benders of the world are all part of it, and something in Sokka was recognized.
Well, Sokka is, working hard and perseverance, whereas the benders are just natural talent, right? It's showing that both are just as important.
Well, it's a natural ability, but they say from the beginning that, like, it takes years of dedication to become a master. Like,
but that's the thing, though. If you're naturally born with it, it's easier to, refine it and hone it and master it, as opposed to... Hey, I'm just going to learn how to do sword stuff and learn how to be, do strategy. It's like, not everybody's cut out for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas if I was born and I could, like, control water, I'd be like, I'm gonna do this every day for the rest of my
Yeah,
life. So
'cause
I'd
why
probably
wouldn't you,
figure it out pretty quick.
Yeah, I did feel his arc maybe was a little bit rushed, because in the beginning, you know, he was literally on a boat, and they were, because I don't know if you remember in the pirate episode, the waterbending scroll, and he's trying to steer the boat, and they're like, steer us away. He's like, I don't know how to do this. I wasn't made by the water tribe. And then in the final episode, he's literally steering a Fire Nation blimp that they've never been in before. So there was some gaps, like, for sure, in his story about how suddenly he knows how to do all these things. But I think it's really kind of important to notice that, like, even if obviously you have the disadvantages, like, you are still extremely valuable to probably people around you, and any goals that you want to accomplish, guys, you can do it. Be like Sokka.
Be like Sokka.
I have to say, the episode where he goes and meets the master and, like, makes his sword and stuff, I feel like I didn't appreciate Sokka as a character until that episode. I feel like that was the turning point where I was like, oh shit, Sokka, you've got some real depth.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, for sure.
Like, holy shit, man.
I think, like, part of what's interesting about his character is the way that he is very external. So what I mean by that is he doesn't want to talk about himself in any depth.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And I think we all know people like that who use humor to deflect what they feel. Cosette is staring daggers into Tyler. I was also like subtweeting you in that statement, Tyler. Fuck you. Whoa.
Hashtag real life.
Hashtag IRL. Tyler sucks and doesn't. Anyway. But you know what I mean? Like, I found that interesting too, because even though he K. Tyler just wrote K on like a note app. That's funny. Okay. You know, like, I forget everything. Go, Cosette.
You were talking about the thing that Tyler does, which is deflecting real feelings with humor so that you never have to talk about them.
Which is how, Sokka handled literally everything from his mom dying, and then his dad leaving, and then his first girlfriend turning into the moon, and then him not having any water. Like, he had some serious issues.
Which I think is, like, a problem that men have, to be honest. Like, when we think about, like, this new wave of feminism, I think one of the things that we're focusing on is, like, toxic masculinity and the fact that men aren't allowed to have feelings. And I feel like because he had to assume this masculine role
rage
of, like, you know, of like being the only kind of like oldest dude in town, like, you know, trying to teach everyone how to be men, he really had, like, you could really see, like, the consequences of that in his behavior, right? Because he doesn't get in too deep to how he's feeling.
It's actually
Often.
a psychological disorder where
It is,
where children are basically adultified too early.
But I mean, you think about all people that have, like, maybe a younger sibling, and then the dad's not in the picture anymore, and it's kind of like, what are these kids doing? It kind of paints a piece of the picture, because now these, like, kids have to be a parent to their younger sibling at way too young of an age, and it does breed that, like, hypermasculinity, the protectiveness, and it does come up in Sokka a lot in all his, you know, sexist remarks, like I said, with the sewing and everything.
Well,
and
you
there's
do see him, like, submit to the I forget, the women Earth Nation fighters.
Kyoshi Warriors. I was just gonna bring that up. Kyoshi Warriors.
Because he does have, like, a sexist outlook of it initially, and then he's just like, oh, actually they're badasses and I'm a garbage can of a human being.
I think that's also shown in the episode where they're in the Fire Nation and they watch the play about themselves. Yeah. And Sokka sees the guy who plays them. At first he's like, yeah, and then he's like, oh, am I like that? Like,
well, he's like, he's just like, first he's like, is that really me? And then he's like, you know what? That's not me. So he's like, I'm going to go tell this guy what it is to be me, which I think is pretty great. But even
also terrifying when you're hiding from the Fire Nation.
Yes, bold, and brave. But with the Kyoshi Warriors, he had this vision of himself that was completely shut down. Yeah, and then he acknowledged that, which was huge. And then he went to the ladies that embarrassed the shit out of him and asked them for help. And I think it was really big of them too to, like,
accept him.
Yeah, accept his apology essentially, which I think a lot of people have a hard time doing. Like, accepting sincerity in apologies and, you know, acting on it and like taking steps to prevent it from happening again rather than to just continue crapping on someone for doing something wrong, which, you know, for whether it's justified or not.
It's easier and it feels better, right?
Yeah.
To get that petty, like, revenge. Like, I'll admit that for me, I'm, like, a very scary, angry person.
I feel that.
Yeah, like, really, really, really out there. So I've kind of had to, like, hone that in because, like, I kind of figured out, because I used to, like, literally, like, sometimes use fear to intimidate people into doing, like, I know it's, like, not a good thing at all, but, like, because I kind of figured out that I could do that, it, like, became an option for me. But it's, like, really hard. The point I'm trying to make is it's really hard to be the bigger person. And that's, you know, something that we can all take away from Avatar. It's, like, very hard sometimes to forgive someone that hurt you or to, like...
Yes, I feel like that comes up a lot in the series.
Like, you know, think about, like, Katara forgiving the man who... Or also, like, the man who killed her mother.
The man... Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm thinking of. Like,
yes.
The worst thing that's ever happened to her. It's so easy to punish someone for doing something bad to you.
Yeah, I think that's actually really interesting. I think the next one we're going to focus on, like, themes and, like, how the Avatar explores these themes. I think that's a lot.
So, do you think that they made Sokka's, like, girlfriend in the end one of the Kyoshi warriors because she kind of, like, is kind of the opposite of him in a way that she's, like, the strong feminist as opposed to, like, his very, like, toxic masculine ideas of things? Like, it kind of, like, puts him in his place.
Yeah, I do feel like, because pretty much after that episode where he is, like, knocked down a peg, that's kind of when they start, like, together. So I feel like maybe that self-reflection did help him understand them and them understand him, kind of. I do think it's interesting that he did pair up with another non-bender. I don't know how it would have, like, reflected the story if he paired up with maybe another, like, a bender. I feel like kind of the benders are pairing up and then maybe the non-benders are pairing. But anyway, that's a whole different...
They address that kind of idea in Korra if you've never watched.
No, I'm not watching Korra. I refuse. So.
Why?
I'm making it my goal that at some point I'm making you watch Korra. I'm going to keep saying it. It's going to happen.
I watched the first season. I watched it. I did it.
It gets better. You have to get into it with me.
That's what everyone says.
It gets better.
But yeah, I do feel like... Oh, wow. Time flies. I do feel like time flies, much like an Avatar.
Much like an Avatar, The Last Airbender. Carmen's favorite fucking thing in existence,
Literally,
if you haven't noticed.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, see, now I lost my train of thought, but my boyfriend literally asked me a question today about Avatar that I couldn't remember the answer to, and it, like, affected me deeply, so I had to Google that shit. I see Amy's getting out her clock. I don't like the look of that.
Oh, wait, are we going to have Carmen
explain things? Yes, we can't have an episode. We can't have an episode without Carmen explains things.
I'm trying to read what that says. I can't see it.
Coco, would you like to prepare the timer?
Okay, what is she explaining?
All right, Carmen, you have 1 minute.
Okay.
To make a list.
Oh no.
From best to worst.
Oh shit.
With the 4 main characters, Aang, Katara, Sokka, and Toph. Who is best? Who is worst?
No, I can't.
You have a minute.
That. I can't.
Wait. Do we need to sing a real version of the song?
Yes, go right ahead. Well, she can have just.
Are you ready, kids?
Oh my heart is racing, you guys.
Carmen explains things. Carmen explains things. Explaining the most traumatic problem that she's ever had explaining.
I've lived a very sheltered life.
Boo! That's it. That's the song.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go!
There are just so many factors that determine what is the best and the worst character. The best bender, debatably, could be Toph because she fucking metal bends. It could be Katara because she can literally heal the wounds of people. It could be Aang because he's spiritual. He has such a hard time. He reaches enlightenment. He literally brings peace, but they kind of all do that best to worst from the 4 main characters. Oh no.
And I'm going to write them down so we can torment you with it forever.
No. Okay, the best character. I'm going to start with the worst character is Katara, because I don't like her whiny mom attitude. Okay, the second worst character is, I literally have 23 seconds. Okay, it goes Katara, and then it goes Toph, and then it goes Sokka or Aang. Aang
10
Sokka.
seconds.
Aang Sokka, I guess.
So Sokka's the best, then Aang.
I guess. Oh no, I don't guess.
Okay, make your final decision. Who's
Final
best?
call!
Yes, Sokka. All right.
Okay.
So you've heard it here, everyone.
Folks.
Carmen's list
That is
of
rude.
best to worst. We have Sokka at the top, then Aang, then Toph, and worst is Katara.
To be honest, like
I like how you describe her fucking trauma as whiny mom shit.
You know what? Do you know what the turning factor? We're going to discuss this further in later episodes, but the Katara, she had this habit of explaining to people what they were feeling and how they were thinking.
Yeah.
And I absolutely fucking hate that. Don't
Yeah.
you dare try to tell me what I or anyone else is thinking or going to do or feeling. Like, don't do it. And that is why Katara's
She does
the worst.
evolve her empathy.
She is right. I will grant you that, but I still hate it.
Like, I think it's an interesting point when you're talking about like how she deals with empathy. And she's not really empathizing. She's thinking about how she feels, right? She's not truly feeling for the other person.
But I think that's how she comprehends the world around her.
Exactly.
Right?
But like, I think that she does actually undergrow.
Absolutely.
She undergoes a growth.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Yes.
She's the best.
Yes.
Much like
there was a dab
Where
there
she
for
really
everyone
does
listening.
kind of like start to understand like how other people like actually feel.
Oh yeah.
To her credit, I still think that she's the fourth on that list. Like, that's a fair placement.
Yeah.
But, you know.
All right, Carmen. So before we wrap up here, can you give us like 2-sentence just like takeaway of how you feel about Sokka?
Okay, Sokka, what did I just say? Men are allowed to feel even if you're in a position of power and leadership, and also that, what was the other thing I said?
you talked about you can always change.
Oh, yes, even if you think you have absolutely nothing to offer the team or the world, you are still gonna do amazing things. And there's, with you'll never give up.
Yeah, and
Never
just
give up, never
summary,
surrender.
Trust your Sokka's instincts.
I think that is the perfect way to finish that. Thank you, Carmen. That was a really fun episode.
Oh, good, I'm glad.
To go so in depth on one character. Does anybody have anything they want to add before we finish up?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, we're good.
Katara sucks. Carmen whispers.
I did nothing of the sort.
Well, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you. So if you enjoyed today's episode and you want to hear more in-depth episodes about Avatar, they will be coming. Make sure you rate and review on all of our platforms. Anywhere you listen to us. We are at Darling Dorks Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. You can email questions, comments, or ideas for episodes.
Just send us hate mail.
to darlingdorkspodcast@gmail.com. If you want to send hate mail, just in the subject put
Just
to
write to
Selena.
yeah, exactly.
And then I will
Yes.
make sure Selena responds to all of you.
You know what? Recommend us, because if you love us, recommend us to your
Yes,
friends.
send
if you
us to
hate
all
us,
your friends.
if you hate
Recommend us to your enemies!
And I'd
Oh,
like to
shit.
say thank you to Tech Wizard Tyler. And if you want to go check out Tyler's YouTube channel,
Yes,
it is
do
called
it.
Fourth Wall Creations. And he's also got a sitcom coming out soon that he is producing and constructing all on his own. So it's going to be really cool. So go check that out.
it's gonna be dope.
It's going to have most of the people here in it. So
Yeah,
go check it
honestly.
out if you enjoy what we do here. So we will see you all next time. So in the meantime, stay darling and stay wonderful dorks. Bye.
Bye.
When I finish this, I just like lost my train of thought you guys. I'm sorry.
The Darling Dorks podcast is produced by Fourth Wall Creations, humor you can use to mask your feelings. Music for Darling Dorks was made by Showbiz, who are releasing their debut album Illusion this upcoming spring. Thanks for listening.